Welcome to Mylio. I'm Jess Lampy. I am a project manager at Mylio, and we're here today in this webinar to talk a little bit more about photo organization, give you some tips on how you can better do it in your own life. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with, from Los Angeles, Peter Bennett. Peter is here. He has 25 years of professional photography experience and has recently moved into the domain of photo organization, bringing his talents with digital asset management to helping people improve the ability to tell their photo life stories with their own photos. So, Peter, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Jess.
Now, Peter, it's great having you here. When we first started talking about doing this project, I was blown away by the story that you were telling me about your inspiration for doing it. Before we get to that, I would love to take a little bit of time to let you tell people at home how you ended up transitioning from the work you were doing into helping people organize their photos.
Well, I think it just came from years of working with professionals. I ran my own photo agency for many years, and that was really what introduced me to organizing photos because it was a digital photo agency, and all of a sudden I was dealing with massive influxes of images, and I had to develop workflow systems to help organize, to help manage it. Um, Eventually I realized, I think a few years ago, that a lot of the resources, technology, applications that were available for professionals were really not available to the general public. And in a sense, they were dealing with this kind of massive influx of images now too. And I thought that's really where the help needs to be. And that's kind of what led to my exploring this area.
That's fantastic. And I think you and I had also spoken before a little bit about you found that uh, as a professional photographer, you were constantly, even in the early 2000s, you're just under a pile of thousands and thousands of digital images and assets. And really, it's only now that in the present day, with the advent of mobile technology and everything, that the average consumer is facing the exact same problem.
Yeah, I think for me, the turning point, I think I had a client recently uh, talk about her system and how she had her whole photo collection organized. And the turning point was when all the mobile devices in her family started kind of, generating these pictures, and then her whole system went to pot. And I think that's what a lot of people are experiencing, is that they may have had a system in place, or they may not have, but it was generally a manageable situation. And then with smartphones and then iPads and then all these different devices taking and creating images are all suddenly kind of, they're all in different places. You either can't find them, or you have too many duplicates. It's just really impossible to manage something like that, because I don't think we've ever experienced that many kind of files and images coming in at that rapid a rate in any frame of reference prior to this. It's just really nothing similar.
Absolutely. It has become a huge challenge for people, but I like the way that the phrase that you use to describe tackling that challenge. I'm not going to steal your thunder too much with it because I like the way you say it. So I want to kick it off to you. Tell us a little bit of the phrase that you described for the mentality people have to have when they're coming at this process.
Yeah, I say we really need to become the photo editors of our own life story. And that just comes from my own experience of being a photo editor. And the main job of a photo editor is to tell a story. You're presented usually with quite a large number of images, and whether they're your own or somebody who's getting them to you as a professional, I've edited other people's work. I was then asked to kind of create a story out of those images. And now it's our responsibility with our own photos. And I want people to think of it that way, because I want people to come at this not as like, I have this giant problem, what do I do about it? I want people to come at it as this is the great thing that can happen if I start to kind of take a little responsibility for organizing my photos. In other words, I will have a life story in photos to present not only to myself to enjoy, but to family members. This is probably the most important story that you tell. It's your own life story. How are people going to remember you is really your responsibility, and how you present that. And what you do now in terms of organizing it is going to really start you on that road. And if you do it well, you will have a great thing to present to your family and your friends and yourself.
I love that way of describing it. It's I mean for hundreds of years we've had the written word. You've been able to craft sentences, and it's been known that oftentimes if you're writing an essay, a speech, anything related to content, you go and you edit it. And it's only been recently that we've been able to produce photos at the rate that we were once able to produce words. And yet we're only just slowly catching up and realizing that, hey, if you're communicating through a photo medium, just like you did with the written word, you got to trim stuff down. You have to make it so that the story is compelling. So I love the way you describe that. And I'm all on board. So I would love to learn just a couple of quick tips from you today on how to get going organizing some photos. I have some for people to view at home. I have my Mylio open. I'm ready to go and edit. Walk me through what you would recommend I do in order to become the photo editor of my life story.
Well, in terms of organizing, I think the biggest mistake people make is trying to organize their photos um, too much in their folder structure. In other words, you have to organize your folder structure, but I think a simple chronological method of years, and then within the folder of years, you might have the months. And keeping it strictly like that. What I see people try to do is they get very ambitious, and they try to have folders for different events and different trips and different people. And all of a sudden their system makes no sense, and they don't know where pictures are, and they start to kind of lose control. So what you do is you organize the events, the people, the trips, all those special things. In the amount of categories is limitless, but you do that with albums, which are virtual collections of photos, and it allows you to take the photos and stick them in an album that could be your trip to Hawaii, or your child's graduation, or your birthday party. And then you might have albums for various people. Obviously, Mylio has that module that allows you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, these are virtual copies. They don't take up any additional space. So they're really the perfect way to organize your folders in a manageable and really kind of sensible way, so that you can find them. And that's really what you want to do. Is want to be able to find them. When that picture comes to mind, you want to see it, or you have a project, you know where to go. That's what's important. You don't want to spend hours like going, oh my gosh, what folder did I put that photo in? So.
Absolutely. And I'm in luck. So I imported my pictures into Mylio, and I had the structure set so that they're dividing them up based on year, month, and then day. Or sorry, not day, but just year and month. And now I can zoom in. I have these pictures, so I don't really need to worry about the folder structure. And I'll kind of take the advice that you gave me, and I'm going to go create myself an album that I can look at. And I'll do that album with I'll create that album for my trip to see the Space Needle. I'll just bring some pictures in from my Space Needle, and voila, that looks good to me. I'm going to go over to albums. I'm going to create a new album, Space Needle. Dive on in there, and away we go. And I've done just that. And so now, to your point now, I now no longer have to worry about messing up and misplacing where the pictures are chronologically. They're always where they were, but I have this new album related to that for the purposes of this tracking.
What's really helpful, I just had a client, and they had a country home. And they wanted to always find the pictures they had of their summers or their trips to that country home. Well, those visits to that country home span decades sometimes, So by creating an album for that country home, they were always able to put all the photos of that country home in that album. And so, in other words, prior to that, they were divided up into years and sometimes folders devoted to that country home. It was a real mess. Now they just have an album. So whenever they take new pictures of their country home, they just, drag them into the album, and they're all together forever. And that's really, that made them very happy. And that's the way we should be doing it. So it has such broad abilities to organize your folders. And the great thing is that you can have multiple images in different. You can have the same image in multiple albums. So you can have them in the country home album, and then you could also have them in the people album, and then you could also have them in that birthday party that you had in the country home album for that person. So.
That's a very excellent point, and I'm demoing that just right now. Bam, I have my Space Needle pictures both in Seattle and also for the Space Needle. So really cool. So all right, I've done that first step. I'm just importing pictures as folders, and I'm not really worrying about reorganizing them beyond the initial date structure. I'm creating other ways of organizing my photos through albums, through locations. Tell me else, what else would you recommend for somebody that's now trying to become the photo editor of their life story?
Right. Well, it's the editing part of it, and it's it starts when you import the new pictures in, or whether you're syncing them with the device. All of a sudden, you're faced with some new images. So what do? I use the stars. The star rating system I find to be the easiest. Colors are able to, you're able to use those for editing, but I forget sometimes what color means what. So with a star, it's a very easy system, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think the mistake most people made is they start looking at their pictures and they go, okay, what's a 1, what's a 3, what's a 4, what's a 5? That's not the way you do it. The way you do it is you go through and make one pass of all your pictures. And if you don't have a lot, you don't have to make this a long, complicated process. But you go through your pictures and you use the forward and backward arrows on your keyboard. And then if you like the picture, if you want to keep it, you give it a 1. You just press the 1 and bam, it stamps it with a rating of 1. And if you want to never see it again or not want to see it, in other words, a reject, you just don't do anything. You just move on to the next image. The first pass, I usually, if it's out of focus, if it's obviously a bad picture, if it's too dark, if it's too light, anything like that, that's obvious. I just don't give it a 1. And then I just give everything I want a 1. After that, I have everything that I want to keep rated as 1, and everything that I don't want to keep rated with no stars. And what I'll generally do is I'll take those pictures that have no stars that I'm going to delete. I don't like to delete things immediately because I never know if I want to go back. Maybe there's something in there, who knows. So I will move them into a folder that says to delete later, and literally just kind of keep that hanging around for a week or so after I've finished editing the whole thing. And then I may go back and, delete them once I'm sure I don't need them.
Makes
Once
sense.
I have, yeah, it makes sense. You never. The worst thing in the world is to delete a picture accidentally, and digitally, there's no getting it back, and it feels awful. So, take some precautions.
Well, I'm going to be a little bit more ruthless with my Seattle trip pictures.
Okay.
So I've gone through. I already see a couple 0-star pictures that were just of my parking meter. So I'm just gonna wipe those off the face of the earth and delete them, and I'm gonna delete from all devices because I don't need them anywhere else.
Right.
So I've done that now. All right, I've gotten rid of them.
And
Um,
we've talked about that too. We've talked about how we use our mobile phones to take pictures for purposes other than necessarily aesthetic or memories. In other words, we were talking about taking pictures in a parking lot when you don't remember where you parked, or when you're shopping and you're communicating with your significant other about what brand of muffins to buy or something. You'll take a picture, and it's become this kind of new form of communication. You don't want those mixed in with those memorable pictures of the trip or this or that. So those go on that first pass as well. unless it's a particularly beautiful parking lot, and then you might want to consider keeping it.
Absolutely. Just like there's written correspondence between me and my family that's long, loving emails versus like short texts of meet over by the restaurant, out in the parking lot. Like I don't need to save those text messages. I do like to save the big emails. Same with pictures. I don't need to remember fondly any of the parking spots I ever was sitting in. I
Yeah.
want the good pictures.
I refer to those as well, the ones we want to keep are the keepsakes, and then the others are kind of these life as it happens moments, and included on that might be, one of the many selfies you might take in the course of a week. It's fun to post on Facebook. Do you ever really want to see it again? So that can go too, but that's up to you. Once you have all those 1 stars, what I generally do, if it's not a huge amount of photos, is I'll just go through those, and the ones that I really think are the special ones, I'll give a 5. So, at this point, it becomes kind of binary. I want to keep them all, but the ones that I really want to have as, memorable pictures that mean something, maybe they have an emotional meaning or they're just a beautiful picture, I give it a 5. And that way I can always pull up my favorites. And that's what you want to do. You never want to have to kind of go searching back for those favorite pictures. Right now it's stamped with a 5-star, and you can even create, and I do, an album out of those 5-starred pictures, and then you always have them there. And those are fun just to kind of look at all the time, because those are the best pictures you got. And so you always want them handy. So if you have more than, maybe generally you can start giving them 2s, 3s, and 4s and dividing them up that way. But generally 1s and then 5s, and you're set.
That's fantastic advice. So I'm taking that advice right now, and I've been going through with this folder. I took the ones that I'd labeled 1 star, and I labeled the one I really liked of the Space Needle as a 5-star. And just for anybody that's following at home to learn how to do that with your folder in Mylio, I can just quickly show you. I'll clear this filter real quick. What you want to do is whatever folder you're in, if this is the one you're working with, you want to click on this icon up here, make sure that filter's highlighted, and then if you've marked a bunch of photos with 1 stars, go ahead and click on the 1-star icon. It'll bring all the 1 stars up. I can go through the 1 stars one at a time, and if there's one that I really like and want to bring up to a 5-star, I just push it to that. Then later when I come back, I can apply the same filter to 5-star pictures, and I'm only seeing my 5-star images in this folder. So it's a really handy way to do very quickly what Peter's recommending for this strategy.
Yeah, and now you're on your way to not only organizing, but deleting stuff that you don't want, and it starts to make it a little bit more manageable. We get so much clutter, and you have to have just at least a simple system in place to organize and to keep those memorable pictures where you want them, and all of a sudden it starts to kind of feel like a good process and a manageable process, and just kind of developing a little simple system for yourself is just going to make it a much more approachable type of thing to do. In other words, we tend to go, oh, I don't want to edit. But if we have a system, then we sit down, we know what we're doing. And I think that has a really great importance, is when you know what you're doing, it doesn't seem like as much of a chore. And we don't want editing to be a chore. We want it to be fun. It's just to enjoy. And really, let's get back to that.
Couldn't agree more. Well, Peter, thank you so much for joining with us today. Before we let you go, is there any way that people can reach out to contact you if they want to continue to learn more from you?
Yes, thanks. I have a website. It's called PhotoFlow Solutions. PhotoFlow is kind of the system that I refer to of taking the pictures to, from the beginning to through the editing stage. And it's PhotoFlow with an F, F-O-T-O, flow, F-L-O-W, solutions.com. And there's a page, it talks about my photo organizing and what's involved, and there's some helpful information. But on the training page is actually a form. And if people go there, they can kind of give me a little information about what they would like to learn, because we want to set up some trainings, and we want to be able to kind of bring this information, drill down a little bit more into some of the techniques and systems that we're developing. And if I hear from you, it's going to help me and us develop more systems that are suited for everyone. So please go there, fill out the form. It just takes a second. And then I just have a mailing list so I can keep you posted about future trainings. And it'd be great to get everybody learning about this stuff and, past this crazy photo glut that we all seem to have and get organized here. It's not a bad word.
Excellent. Yes, go check it out. It's a fantastic opportunity. Peter, you're a wonderful guy to learn from. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks so much, Jess. Appreciate having me.
Have a great one.
Thanks.
And I think we're out. All right. Peter, thank you so much.